As rookies prepare to report to training camp on July 17th, the Las Vegas Raiders have cleared some space by waiving quarterback Carter Bradley. That move narrows the depth chart to three QBs: Geno Smith, Aiden O'Connell, and rookie Cam Miller, the sixth rounder out of North Dakota. Before we dive deeper into what's happening behind the scenes in Raider Nation, make sure you subscribe to the channel, smash that like button, and ring the bell icon so you never miss a single update on your Raiders. Let's keep it rolling. Later in the show, we'll revisit the Raiders' Mount Rushmore, a topic that sparked plenty of debate. You'll hear fan reactions and some new takes that just might change your list. But first, let's unpack what this QB move means for the team heading into camp. Carter Bradley is out, but why now? The Raiders waived the former practice squad quarterback just days before rookies report to training camp. On the surface, it looks like they're trimming the QB room down to Geno Smith, Aiden O'Connell, and rookie Cam Miller. But could this move mean something more? There's a good chance the team brings in a fourth arm later, just to rotate reps and keep the others fresh, as most camps do. But here's where things get interesting. Bradley, the son of former Raiders defensive coordinator Gus Bradley, was never seen as a long-term option. So his release raises a critical question. Are the Raiders clearing space for someone more important? Maybe Jack Beck, the unsigned second-round wide receiver out of TCU? With rookie camp starting July 17th, time is running out. NFL teams are allowed only 90 players in camp, but the Raiders technically have 91 thanks to their International Pathway Program exemption. Still, to officially sign Beck, a slot needs to open. So was this a strategic move, or just a routine roster cleanup? Either way, the Raiders can't afford to let Beck fall behind. He's one of 30 second-round picks still without a deal, and with each passing day, he loses precious reps that could shape his future in silver and black. The clock's ticking, the roster's shifting, and one thing's clear: the Raiders aren't just preparing, they're calculating. So here's the deal. Jack Beck, the Raiders' second-round pick, still isn't signed. And he's not alone. 30 other second-rounders across the NFL are in the same situation. Why? It all comes down to guaranteed money. Beck's spot in the draft is stuck in a waiting game. At the center of it is Tyler Shaw, the eighth pick of the second round, who's pushing for a fully guaranteed deal, something that's never been standard at that position. Until his contract gets done, the rest of the round is basically on pause. Players ahead of Beck are holding off to see if Shaw breaks through. And those below? They're waiting to catch the ripple effect. But how does this affect the Raiders? They need Beck in camp, plain and simple. Training begins July 17th for rookies, and every rep counts. But insiders say the real deadline isn't the 17th, it's July 22nd, when veterans report. That's the true pressure point. If Beck isn't in uniform by then, the delay could cost him valuable development time. And while Beck is represented by veteran agent David Mulugeta, the same man who got Dak Prescott a $60 million deal, this isn't about chasing a blockbuster contract. It's about timing and leverage. Agents are carefully watching when nearby picks sign, how much of their contracts are guaranteed, and who's making the first move. Now, whether Beck says, "Just get me in camp," or chooses to hold firm for a stronger deal, that's the million-dollar question. For now, the Raiders wait. And with training camp around the corner, the clock is ticking louder than ever. By the time you're hearing this, there's a chance Jack Beck might have already signed. But even if he hasn't, the situation remains one of the biggest storylines heading into rookie camp on July 17th. And right behind that, veteran players arriving next week. All eyes are on how the Raiders are managing their roster, and every move feels calculated. Now, here's something you didn't see coming. Max Crosby is dropping a rap EP. Yep, the heart of the Raiders' defense is stepping into the studio. On Monday night, Crosby tweeted that he's releasing a short project, something personal he's been working on for a while. It's called Pressure, and it's dropping before the season kicks off. Of course, Raider fans remember Darren Waller's music ventures too. Some tracks were fire, others not so much. But Max? He's built different. Whether he's sacking quarterbacks or spitting bars, you can bet Raider Nation will tune in. And knowing Crosby's work ethic, he'll be locked in when it's time to hit the field. Now let's pivot to something that's had fans buzzing. The Raiders' Mount Rushmore. A nearly impossible task. How do you choose just 4 players from one of the most storied franchises in football? With over 30 Hall of Famers, legends on both sides of the ball, and an iconic legacy, picking only 4 is brutal. To make things harder, coaches and owners were off limits. That meant no Al Davis, no John Madden. 2 of the most important figures in Raiders history had to be left out. So here's who made the final cut. Jim Otto, Mr. Raider himself. Tim Brown, Touchdown Timmy. Kenny Stabler, the Snake. Marcus Allen, one of the all-time greats. But the moment that list hit social media, the debates lit up. One tweet stood out, calling out the lack of a defensive legend on the list. And honestly, it's a fair point. Think about it. The Raiders' legacy isn't just built on offensive firepower. It's built on grit, intimidation, and relentless defense. And while this version of the Mount Rushmore is solid, the absence of someone like Charles Woodson or Howie Long reminds us just how rich this team's history truly is. Here's the truth. You could build a full Mount Rushmore of Raiders defenders alone and still leave out legends. The more you think about it, the tougher it gets. Howie Long, Willie Brown, Ted Hendricks, Charles Woodson, Greg Townsend, Lester Hayes. That's 6 names without even trying. And then there's Mike Haynes, another absolute force on the field. Put Haynes and Hayes together, and you've got one of the nastiest corner duos in league history. But when it comes to the official Mount Rushmore, the one done for the Locked On Podcast Network, only 4 spots were available. And I chose Jim Otto, Tim Brown, Kenny Stabler, Marcus Allen. Solid choices, no doubt. But it sparked a fair question. Where's the defensive presence? If I had to make room for just one defender, who would it be? I'd lean toward Howie Long, a Hall of Famer I grew up watching, a relentless leader who defined the Raiders' toughness. But I'd hesitate not to pick Willie Brown, the original Hash 24, a symbol of the team's identity. And let's not forget Ted Hendricks, often mentioned in the same breath as Max Crosby. That kind of legacy matters. Then there's the hardest omission of all, Charles Woodson. He's my all-time favorite Raider. But the reality is, his biggest accolades came in Green Bay. A Defensive Player of the Year, a Super Bowl ring. Some even argue he was a better Packer than a Raider. That stings, but I get it. Still, Woodson returned to the silver and black, ended his career here, and mentored the next generation. That loyalty, that impact, it's hard to ignore. So yeah, I understand the pushback, and maybe there's no perfect answer. But if you're building a monument to the heart of Raider Nation, you better believe defense deserves a spot on it. Some fans argue I left off Fred Biletnikoff, and look, I get it. He's a Raiders legend, but he last suited up in 1978, and I was just 2 years old at the time. As much as I respect his impact, and I've even interviewed him, it's tough to put someone on my personal Mount Rushmore when I never got to experience their greatness in real time. That's why I gave the nod to Tim Brown. I watched him every Sunday. He was the heartbeat of the Raiders' offense for years. But that choice makes the rest even harder. If I wanted to add a defensive icon like Howie Long, I'd have to remove someone else from the list. And honestly, even thinking about taking off Stabler or Otto feels wrong, like borderline blasphemy. But that's the beauty and the burden of being part of an organization with this much history. Maybe the idea of a 4-man Mount Rushmore just doesn't work for the Raiders. Maybe it should be by decade, or offense, defense, and special teams. Heck, you could make a case for Ray Guy, the greatest punter the league has ever seen. That tweet that started all of this, saying I failed by not including a defensive player, may have stung, but it got me thinking. That's the power of this conversation. And honestly, Greg Townsend and Lester Hayes, who aren't even in the Hall of Fame, could absolutely deserve a spot. That's how deep the silver and black's greatness runs. Up next, you. Your calls, your takes, your Mount Rushmore. Raider Nation has spoken, and the feedback was nonstop as the rookie reporting date gets closer. So let's close the show strong with your voices. Brock Bowers may not light up the stat sheet in year 2 like he did as a rookie, but that could be a good thing. If his receptions dip slightly but his touchdowns double, that's a major upgrade. Fewer catches, more points on the board. That's winning football. And now with Geno Smith under center, Bowers has the chance to thrive with a quarterback who actually delivers the ball where it needs to go. Now, back to the debate that's got Raider Nation fired up, the Mount Rushmore. Most folks seem to agree on 3 locks: Jim Otto, Tim Brown, and Charles Woodson. Those names are practically carved in silver and black stone. But then someone dropped a wild card: Derek Carr. Look, Carr's the franchise's all-time passing leader. He gave the team stability in one of the most chaotic periods in Raiders history. 9 seasons, countless comebacks, and unshakable leadership. But here's the truth: stability doesn't equal legacy. When you stack Carr up against names like Stabler, Plunkett, or even Gannon, the hardware just isn't there. No playoff wins, no Super Bowl appearances, and in an organization with over 30 Hall of Famers, that's a tough sell. Still, I get it. Mount Rushmore is personal. For some fans, DC is the quarterback they grew up watching. He kept hope alive when the team was stuck in the mud. That loyalty runs deep. But if you ask Raider Nation as a whole, the majority would probably pass on Carr for that 4th slot. Respect for the man? Absolutely. But enshrinement among the all-time greats? That's a stretch. Then came a powerful message from Ant Dog in the ATL, his list: Stabler, Marcus Allen, Tim Brown, and a sleeper pick, Lyle Otto. Not because of stats, but because of what he represented. That's the heart of the Raider mystique: grit, attitude, impact beyond the numbers. And how about Matt Millen punching a Patriots GM to protect Howie Long? That's Raider football. Moments like that don't show up in highlight reels, but they define what it means to wear the shield. Up next, Stabler's ghost from the Northeast checked in, and he shook things up too. He swapped Biletnikoff in for Tim Brown and Plunkett for Stabler. 2-time Super Bowl champ? Hard to argue with that. That's the point. There's no wrong answer, just too many legendary options. Every voice adds to the legacy. Every take matters. And every list is a reflection of what each Raider fan values most. Stabler's ghost brought the heat. And yeah, it's wild how many legends could have made that Mount Rushmore. I mean, the fact that I left off every defensive player, I didn't even notice until Twitter called me out, and they were right. It's especially surprising coming from me. I love defense. I live for that gritty, nasty style that defines Raider football. And yet, I somehow missed putting even one defensive monster on the mountain. Not Howie Long, not Willie Brown, not even Charles Woodson, my all-time favorite Raider. But let's be real, this is not an easy task, especially with the no coaches, no owners rule. You mean to tell me I can't put Al Davis or John Madden on the Mount Rushmore of the Raiders? That's like telling the story of Star Wars without mentioning Darth Vader. Just doesn't feel right. And you can't forget Tom Flores, 2-time Super Bowl champion coach, barrier breaker, and certified Raider legend. But again, not allowed. So it all comes down to players. And that's where the real agony starts. Take this message I got from Voodoo Rick 66. He made a strong case for Gene Upshaw, calling him the living, breathing essence of the Raiders. He's right. Upshaw bled silver and black, anchoring that offensive line next to Jim Otto for years. You could build a whole Mount Rushmore just from the trenches alone. Then came Jacob from Wilmington, and he threw a twist. He built his list with only Super Bowl winners. His picks: Matt Millen, linebacker; Ray Guy, punter; Jim Otto, center; Tom Flores, coach; Jim Plunkett, quarterback. The heart of that list: Plunkett, 2 Super Bowl rings, comeback king, one of the greatest underdog stories in league history. And yet, still left out of the Hall of Fame. It's a crime. There should already be a movie about that man. Now, Jacob bent the rules a little. Mount Rushmore only has 4 heads, not 5. And no coaches allowed, technically. But he's not wrong. All of those names belong somewhere in Raiders' immortality. That's the pain of this whole conversation. you're always leaving someone out. Doesn't matter how many lists you make, how much history you dig into, or what criteria you use, you will snub someone legendary. And maybe that's the real story here. Not who made the mountain, but how deep the legacy runs. The Raiders don't just have a Mount Rushmore. They've got a whole mountain range. Clark Raider 46 kicked things off with a killer list. Cliff Branch, the speed demon whose deep balls changed every game. Fred Biletnikoff, the precise rub master and Hall of Famer, too bad his enshrinement came posthumously. Howie Long, the embodiment of Raider toughness on defense. Tim Brown, the consummate pro who defined consistency at wideout. And a shout-out to Todd Christensen, whose savvy at tight end made him a fan favorite. Clark's picks remind us there's no shortage of legends: offense, defense, special teams, you name it. Then Eric, the rocking Raider from Phoenix, weighed in. Is Mount Rushmore. 1. Kenny Stabler, swagger, leadership, and a Super Bowl ring. 2. Marcus Allen, the ultimate game changer in 2 title runs. 3. Tim Brown, longevity and production that deserved a ring. 4. Howie Long, unstoppable force on the defensive front. Eric's perspective highlights the balance between iconic moments and sheer dominance. He even wants a future deep dive on Chip Kelly's coaching career, but that's a conversation for another day. Final takeaway. Every fan's list is different, but the passion is the same. Narrowing down silver and black immortals to just 4 names is impossible, and that's exactly why we love this debate. As rookie camp approaches on July 17th and the veterans arrive by the 22nd, we'll keep tracking every move, Jack Beck's contract, the QB battle, and of course, more legendary conversations about the team's all-time greats. That's our show for today, Raider Nation. Stay proud, stay loud, and remember, just win, baby.